Under the eastern Mediterranean sun, the ruins of an ancient city lie exposed. Stone theaters sit empty. Facades and columns stand alone. Ancient homes have been uncovered, revealing traces of people who lived here. This was Ephesus, one of the grandest cities of the ancient world. A city shaped by nature, faith, and empire, and ultimately undone by them. We walk along the marble streets laid nearly 2,000 years ago, tracing the events that made Ephesus legendary and led to its fall. The ruins of Ephesus lie in western Turkey, just 8 kilometers from the Aegean Sea. What is now a broad valley was once a vast inlet, the Gulf of Ephesus. Greeks originally settled in around the 10th century BC near Ayasuluk Hill in the area of today's city of Seljuk. But as the centuries passed, sediment from the mountains and rivers steadily filled the Gulf of Ephesus. And for a city dependent on its harbor, the retreating shoreline would remain a constant struggle for centuries. Near the shore rose the Temple of Artemis, dedicated to the twin sister of Apollo, worshipped here as a powerful goddess of fertility and the natural world. The sanctuary became a major pilgrimage site, drawing worshippers from across the Greek world. After a fire in 356 BC, the temple was rebuilt, larger than before, surpassing even the Parthenon and supported by more than 100 towering marble columns. Its scale and splendor astonished visitors, earning it a place among the 7 wonders of the ancient world. By the 3rd century BC, the coastline shifted west, leaving marshland near the city and its temple. So the settlement was relocated 2 kilometers further west to a more defensible location on a gradual sloping valley between 2 hills, where a new harbor was established and a grand street plan took shape. This is the ancient city of Ephesus we see today. The city grew and prospered, yet the Gulf kept retreating. To preserve the harbor, engineers added a perimeter wall to keep it usable. Pilgrimage to the Temple of Artemis became a 2-kilometer walk along the sacred way from Ephesus. By 130 BC, Rome ruled the region, and Ephesus grew into one of the most important cities of the Roman Empire. Our walk begins from the upper gate, continuing downhill, passing the administrative center where officials governed and merchants traded. We continue down into a residential and civic center, passing remains of fountains, baths, and taking a look at the terrace houses. From the classic Library of Celsus, we continue through a large gate past a commercial center and to its grand theater. We take a look towards the harbor area before exiting through the lower gate. Ephesus became the capital of the Roman province of Asia, governing what is now western Turkey. And much of what we see today dates from that time, with excavations along its main street. The Odeon was once an indoor theater, seating about 1,500 and topped with a wooden roof. It was used for city council meetings, plays, and concerts. Thanks to Roman engineering, Ephesus was fed by at least 4 major aqueducts. Water then flowed through a network of terracotta, stone, and lead pipes to baths, fountains, public spaces, and wealthy homes, while separate channels carried away sewage, drainage, and rainwater into the harbor. The Prytaneum functioned as the town hall, with the seat of the Roman governor of the province of Asia. Nearby were temples dedicated to emperors, where loyalty to Rome was expressed through worship of the emperor. Marble streets flowed through the core of Ephesus, connecting civic buildings, fountains, baths, and gathering spaces, a statement of prosperity. Domitian Square was framed by imperial monuments, including the great Temple of Domitian, dedicated to the emperor who is believed to have exiled Apostle John from Ephesus to the nearby island of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelation. The arch belongs to the Fountain of Domitian, which had numerous statues including Odysseus, Cyclops, river gods, and the head of Zeus, which are all now on display in the Ephesus Museum in Seljuk. The Memmius monument marks Rome's reassertion of power in Ephesus, after the city and much of western Turkey briefly fell under the control of a kingdom based in the Black Sea region. Passing through the Hercules Gate, we move from the political heart of the city into its commercial and civic spaces. Here is the magnificent view down Curetes Street, with the Library of Celsus rising in the distance. Imagine how this street must have looked in its prime. Like Rome, Ephesus was also a city of fountains. The Fountain of Trajan was monumental, with 2 tiers of columns, 2 pools, and numerous statues, some also displayed in the Ephesus Museum in Seljuk. One of the most elegant buildings in Ephesus is what's commonly called the Temple of Hadrian. Its elaborate carvings include a bust of Tyche, goddess of fortune, chance, and prosperity, symbolizing the fate and divine protection of the city. Modern scholars now believe this is not the true Temple of Hadrian, and was built instead as part of the bath complex behind it. The bath complex was very large and originally thought to be 3 stories, and had changing rooms with a sequence of cold, warm, and hot baths. Here are communal toilets with marble seating, very practical, but not for the shy. They surround an open-air courtyard with a fountain. Back up on the main street stand the remains of elite Roman homes on the slopes overlooking the civic center. Today known as the Terrace houses, they reveal the private lives of the wealthy in a prosperous provincial capital of the Roman Empire. Largely built in the first 2 centuries AD, they were expanded and remodeled over generations and occupied into the 7th century. 6 major residential units rise in tiers along the hillside, some containing dozens of rooms across multiple levels. Decorated with mosaic floors and painted frescoes, these homes overlooked the city's bustling main street, with the Temple of Hadrian just across the way. Typical home layout was a main floor open courtyard lined by columns, along with living, dining, and storage rooms, and upstairs were the bedrooms. Clay pipes embedded in the walls supplied running water to kitchens and bathrooms. The terrace houses remind us that Ephesus was also a place where people lived, worked, and raised families. At the end of the street rises one of the most iconic monuments in Ephesus, the Library of Celsus. Built in 117 AD, it was one of the largest libraries of the ancient world. It was commissioned by a son in honor of his father, the Roman governor Tiberius Julius Celsus Ptolemeus. Celsus was buried beneath the building, and above his tomb, knowledge was preserved in a grand library. The facade is carefully balanced and symmetrical. Between the columns are statues symbolizing wisdom, virtue, intelligence, and knowledge. These figures are replicas, with the originals preserved in the Ephesus Museum in Vienna. Also, a statue of Celsus stood in the center upper level, currently in the Istanbul Archaeological Museum. Its interior walls were covered in marble, with niches housing around 12,000 scrolls. In the 3rd century AD, fire damaged the building during a time of instability, and later earthquakes reduced it to ruin. The facade that stands today was reassembled in the 1970s from surviving fragments, a careful reconstruction of a monument that once symbolized learning and status in Roman Ephesus. Dominating the city's western edge is the Great Theater. What began as a modest Greek stage was later transformed by Roman ambition into the colossal monument we see today. Carved directly into the hillside, its tiered rows once held 25,000 spectators, making it one of the largest theaters of the ancient world. In the 1st century, it became the stage for a clash that shook Ephesus. Apostle Paul was preaching a new faith, directly challenging Artemis, the goddess who had defined the city for centuries. As his message spread, local craftsmen who made Artemis shrines feared for their livelihoods. They incited a mass gathering right here, with shouts for the goddess echoing throughout the theater. Paul sought to face the crowd, but his followers held him back, fearing for his safety. Paul stayed 3 years, but he wasn't the only one. Long-held tradition maintains that Apostle John arrived here with Mary, the mother of Jesus, establishing a new home. Though John was later banished to the nearby island of Patmos, where he recorded the apocalyptic vision of Revelation, he eventually returned to Ephesus to write his gospel in his final days. Yet Ephesus didn't change overnight. Devotion to Artemis remained strong through the 3rd century, and a covered stoa was built along the sacred way leading to the temple. So what happened to Ephesus after its golden age? As the sea withdrew, so would the fortunes of Ephesus, while a new faith began to transform the city. In the 3rd century, large ships could no longer reach the harbor, so they anchored offshore as cargo was ferried on small boats through narrow channels, kept open with constant dredging by Roman engineers. Christianity was legalized across the empire, and the old pagan cults declined. The great Temple of Artemis, damaged during Gothic raids, was gradually abandoned and dismantled. Today, only a single column remains. In the 5th century, Ephesus remained a Christian center, hosting the Council of Ephesus at the Church of Mary. The church was expanded into a large cathedral as one of the last grand building projects of the city. By this time, the Western Roman Empire had fallen, and Ephesus continued within the Eastern Empire, governed from Constantinople, today's Istanbul. Back on Ayasuluk Hill, the grand Basilica of St. John was built around 530 AD, reportedly using stones taken from the Artemis Temple. It replaced an old church thought to stand over the tomb of Apostle John. It drew the bishop's seat away from Ephesus, returning the hill to its ancient role as a sacred destination. And it began to draw a population away from Ephesus, whose prosperity was in decline. Ephesus would not survive the 7th century. As its maritime lifeblood dried up, Arab raids forced a desperate relocation to Ayasuluk Hill. The hill became a site of safety, welcoming a population in retreat. And there a fortified citadel took shape, with high walls and towers. Within this stronghold stood the administrative elite, a military garrison, and the Basilica, all sustained by ancient aqueducts. In a strange twist of history, settlement had returned exactly to where it began 1,000 years earlier. In medieval Western Europe, Ephesus lived on in Scripture as a legendary harbor city. Imagine the surprise of the French army during the Second Crusade in 1147. They arrived seeking a fabled metropolis, but found only ruins of its ancient glory. Instead, the king and his knights rested at the small fortified settlement atop Ayasuluk Hill. The great marble city of legend was no more. As time went by, the ruins of ancient Ephesus were buried deep beneath layers of silt and soil. It wasn't until 1863 that British engineer John Turtlewood arrived with a single obsession to find the lost seventh wonder Temple of Artemis. After 3 years of searching around Ephesus, he found an inscription near the Great Theater, describing sacred processions along a road from the Magnesian Gate across the plain to the temple. While with this clue, Wood spent another 3 years digging trenches, following the buried edge of the marble sacred way, until he finally uncovered remains of the temple nearly 20 feet below the surface. Since 1895, Austrian archaeologists have excavated 15% of Ephesus. Today, the remains of theaters, streets, houses, and temples stand once more under the sun, silent witnesses to centuries of ambition, belief, and daily life. From Greek sanctuary to a Roman capital to a center of Christianity, Ephesus stood at the crossroads of power and faith. It began with the sea and ended with its absence. What remains is stone and the echo of a city that once shaped the ancient world. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to explore my YouTube channel, where you'll find over 100 more travel adventures. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell for new releases, and share my channel with your friends who love history and discovery.